Welcome to the True Wealth Podcast, where we specialize in helping aspiring homeowners break into the real estate market and help investors create and build wealth through real estate. We will be sharing some of our best advice around real estate so you can purchase your first home or grow your real estate portfolio, increase profitability, reduce taxes, and achieve financial freedom. Your host, Sean Adiemi, is a certified financial planner, mortgage professional, and fellow investor. We want to help you get real so you can pursue your investing dreams with confidence. A real estate acquisition lifestyle is within your grasp. Financial freedom is possible when you have the right mindset, coaching, advice, and community. So, let's get real.
Welcome to the True Wealth Podcast. I am your host, Sean Adiemi. Today we have a very interesting episode. I'm really excited to talk to our guest. Natasha Knox is financial planner at Alafia Financial Wellness. She's a CFP just like myself, and we met a few years ago, and she is one of those really amazing people who is all about doing what's best for the clients and really helping clients out. She is one of a kind, and I'm part of multiple groups with her. We have a Financial Planning Association of Canada where she is a big contributor there to different conversations on financial planning and approaches. She's also part of another smaller private group where we all share ideas on financial planning. And we've had many conversations, and I thought, well, what makes her unique is her approach to financial planning when it comes to financial therapy. So she uses financial therapy to help get the best out of her clients. And I'm going to let her talk a little more about it. But before we get into that, Natasha, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. It's bright and early here on the West Coast. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, we're really glad to have you. Thank you for making it early. I know you're an early bird anyway, so this is good.
Got up, got a tricky Wordle in 4, so I'm happy with that, and I'm ready to go.
So tell me about yourself. Tell me about what got you. Tell me about your story, and so how you got into financial industry, and we'll kind of take it from there.
Well, that was a long time ago, and I sort of landed there kind of by accident. And I started my career at Freedom 55, and I was there for 13 years. And then I left for a number of reasons that are probably beyond the scope of this podcast to start Alafia. It had a different name when I started, and a couple of years in, I switched the name to Alafia. And here I am, 5.5 years later, and it is very much a calling.
Right. So tell me about financial therapy. We've talked about this at different times, and there's a Financial Therapy Association. It's not something that is common in Canada. So can you give us a little bit of an insight of what's financial therapy?
Yeah. Well, the way I personally describe financial therapy is sort of like a spectrum. So, if you could consider like the barbell would be like on one end, you have, let's say, I don't know, a bank teller that is just strictly transactional. There would be no financial therapy involved there. Mm-hmm. And then on the other end of the barbell, I don't know, you may have like some sort of like classic Freudian psychoanalyst talking about your mother and your like stuff in childhood, but not a single word about money. Right. So those might be the two ends. And then in between, as you start to get into, values, feelings, emotions, behaviors around money, you can sort of start to blend the two. So, I would say if this is the end, like most like holistic financial planners, like so someone like you, for instance, or anyone providing holistic financial planning services would be somewhere around here, right? So you're still going to talk to people about their feelings about money. You might have a couple of techniques or insights around their behavior around investments. Like we know a little bit about cognitive and behavioral biases when it comes to investments. We may have different routes of getting to the root of that. On this end, like maybe someone like a therapist, like money actually comes up a lot in therapy because it's a major stressor, it's a major point of friction. So a therapist might like listen to them and not know what to do with it. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. Maybe they might say, well, maybe you should go see a financial planner, or like, maybe you need to do a budget. So Alafia is like closer to here. So it straddles the middle. And there are a number of us who sort of really straddle that middle ground, that have a slightly more robust therapeutic skill set, or coming from the mental health side, have a more robust financial skill set to help people in just a more in-depth way than our home professions might generally touch on.
I like the idea of mental health, because I don't think that's something that is spoken a lot of, in terms of how your mental health affects how you handle money and how you interpret the world. So what did you have to do to begin to be able to peel back the layers? You're not a therapist.
I am not. Someone on my team is, but I'm not.
You're not a therapist, but you're also not just a financial planner. Like you said, you straddle that middle ground where you're able to go a little deeper than the average financial planner can, but they're not going to be crying on your couch about what happened when they were kids and how that messed them up.
Well, actually, there's no couch because I have a virtual practice, but we actually do work on childhood stuff a fair amount.
Okay. So yeah. Tell me about that. Like, let's what's a session? What's a successful session like when you're going through the process?
So I think we need to back it up a bit, and and this is just how I do things. It could look different for various people. So not everyone who works with me is interested in the financial therapy piece. So that's the first thing. And not everyone wants it. Not everyone needs it. It's very much, some people self-select into working with me because they have some areas that they're wanting to work on. So that's the first thing I wanted to throw out there. This doesn't apply to every sort of client. But for those that it does apply to, I wear two different hats, and I make it really clear. So a meeting could be a planning meeting, and I'm wearing my planning hat in that meeting, and we're talking about tax optimization and fees on your investments and asset allocation and risk management, and we're talking about those things when I'm wearing my planning hat. And then when I'm wearing my I call it my coaching hat, it looks and feels very different. And so I have and those meetings are solely dedicated to that. And the clients know that they are going to be solely dedicated to that. And I know that it's going to be dedicated to that. And so those meetings, which is, I think, what you're asking me about, look very different.
So do you usually get, is there a bunch of questions you ask the client to prepare for? Is there a prep before the meeting? And
yeah. So there are a few things. Before I even meet them, before I even engage with them, I already know what they're looking for, what and why. On my pre-meeting, so I offer a little 20-minute consultation. I have a little intake form, and on it there's a slider that already lets me know what are you looking for? Crunch my numbers, or let's talk about money and mindset and feelings. So whereas they put that slider already gives me a sense of what they're needing. Then as part of the intake process, I have some assessments for people who rate, let's say it's a 10-point scale. If they're 5 to 10, there are some additional assessments that I use beyond my standard intake. And that gives me some sense of what might be in their background, what might be in their childhood, what some of those beliefs might be, and different things. I don't use them in an evaluative sense, as in, I don't score it and give a report.
Right.
And I don't diagnose, because I am not a clinician. I'm not in the business of diagnosing. But it does give me a really, really good sense of what we have gone on for them, and a really great starting point for conversation. So there are some therapeutic exercises that I may use that I've adapted for my practice that, we may devote the meeting to that. We may talk about what I saw in the assessments, and I may ask them a few questions like, oh, I noticed you said this. Can you tell me a bit about that? I may work on their family tree. So I'll build a genogram of their history. So I usually go 2 generations prior. So it's how they grew up. Tell me a little bit about your parents. Tell me a little bit about their parents. And that is usually very illuminating. So that's in the really early stages. And that's just giving us history. That doesn't usually move the needle all that much. Sometimes I assign homework. That starts to move the needle. And then there's a coaching methodology that I've been trained in that I may use for an entire session. Or I may take an internal family systems approach for an entire session. And that is what usually starts to move the needle. And so those are, it's not talk therapy. There's a methodology behind it. And that usually goes in directions that the clients are really surprised, So we all have sort of like a surface narrative of, oh, this is why I'm around money. Like, they may have some memories of how they grew up or different things. But once we start using these methodologies, like it goes straight to the source of the pain, which is usually quite different
than what they thought.
Than what they thought, even though like the surface narrative has a lot of truth to it and it makes a lot of sense. But to really get to those deeper levels, I found that these 2 approaches are actually pretty powerful.
So, sorry, what did you call the approaches? You said the family tree.
Oh, so that's just that's almost part of the discovery. That's not really an approach, but it's it's something that I do use again to flesh out and find out what is there, and then that's sort of giving me background context for when what comes up in the coaching, what comes up in an internal family systems session, then, I have those background contexts and it also is bringing to their awareness certain patterns, that they may not have put together as far as, stuff like, how money was handled or not handled, or like if they have any awareness of it, or stuff that their parents thought about when it comes to money. And was there any sort of evidence of substance abuse? Was there evidence of ADHD? Was the family intact? Was it a single parent home? Was it a dual parent home? Were there step parents involved? All of those kinds of things. And then what were the characteristics of each? What were the levels of educational attainment? Is the wealth dwindling through the generations, or is it increasing through the generations? And, like all of those kinds of things can be shown as you create a family tree.
So how open are you finding clients to divulge in some of these details? Because sometimes some of these things can be sensitive and people...
completely open. That's what the slider is about. So the ones who are signing up for that, that's what they're getting. The ones who are, hey, listen, we're just worried about our money and we just need you to give us a plan. Like we need to pull this together. Well, I can do that too. I don't need to go into all of that other stuff because I already know from the slider, that's what they want from me. They just want some traditional financial planning. And we still talk about family values because that is part, in my opinion, of traditional financial planning. Right? And we still might talk about, attitudes around money and behavioral biases and those kinds of things, because that's part of traditional financial planning. But we're not going into the family history and, this, that, and the other, because they didn't ask for it. So, it's a consent thing, basically. So I'm not going there with them.
So I guess those who you are going into all that detail, they've already made you aware that they want to kind of dive deeper and understand some of the issues behind money. And sometimes I find that people are maybe self-aware and realize that I have this issue and I don't quite know how to get past it.
That's right. So
maybe that's why they reach out to you. It's like, help me figure out how to get past this.
That's exactly it.
So if you don't mind painting a picture, what's the what would you say has been your biggest success story? Without sharing intimate details, in terms of how you were able to help a client uncover limiting beliefs or biases, like how, what does that look like when they come in on one side and on the other side? Because I'm looking at the testimonials on your website and they're amazing, they're great, but I kind of want to peel back a little bit more to see. I believe in what you do, I really do, and I think we need more people like you in the industry who are able to kind of marry both of them, the financial therapy side and the straight numbers, making the numbers work and helping clients or helping investors reach their goals. So paint a picture for me. Use an example without sharing too much intimate details.
That is a challenge, because it's a process. So I would say that I don't know about the biggest success, but, I sort of have a standard question. I think most planners, have some sort of a question, along the lines of what would success look like for you 12 months from now, that sort of thing. And so after a year, when we reflect on what they said and where they are, it's fairly common for them to be in the position that they, whatever those stated goals were. So I'm struggling without getting very specific, but
I like what you said there, though, in the sense that it's not a magic bullet. It's a journey, right? It's a process. It's multiple conversations about different issues and then pulling the thread on something that you find intriguing and trying to unravel that to get to the source of the problem.
Yeah, it is. And it's also like any other sort of interior work. There may be moments where under stress or changing life circumstances that people revert to their former behaviors or former mindset temporarily and then get back on track and continue to progress. So it's more like one of these sort of things, like still
spirals.
Trending. Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. And it's part of the process. And it's, it's reverting to one's former behavior isn't, it's not a failure. It's actually information.
Mm-hmm.
It's information. It's another layer to find out, okay, well, what's going on this time? What did we, what does this tell us about what is going on? And then progress can resume.
It's more data that you can then use to solve the problem, right?
Yeah, I don't really think about it that way. Like, I don't think about people who come in presenting with areas that they want to work on. I don't really see it as a problem to solve. So I think about it more as an area of growth, an area of exploration, an area of development. But I sort of operate from the framework that people are behaving in ways that make complete sense to them in the moment. And if I dig hard enough and if I really start to understand their interior life, will actually make complete sense to me. They are not broken. They're not a problem to solve, but there is an area that they want to work on. There's something that they're wanting to change, and I can help facilitate that change that they desire, because they're at a point where this is no longer working for me. This way of being in the world is not what they want anymore. And they want something different, and I can help them with that. But they also have to understand, well, this is why you've been acting this way. It actually makes a lot of sense. And now that you can have a little bit of distance from that and understand it, it makes it so much easier to progress and move in a different direction.
And I think being able to identify the triggers, being able to identify what the source of a certain behavior pattern looks like, I think it's the first step to being able to work through it and or even work in spite of it to really accomplish what you're trying to accomplish. And I always say this, success is never linear. It's always a spiral. And so the question is, it's not so much changing the person, but is shaping them and helping them understand themselves better than they probably did before, so they can use that information to move forward in whichever space they want to.
That's right.
That's amazing stuff. I'm looking at the testimonials on your website, and they're amazing, and I like the great work you do. And I can't say it enough. We need more we need more people like you in the industry. One question for you is, do you ever get to a situation where there is so much to unpack that you don't think you think it may be best served going to meet a full therapist and then coming back to you?
Yes. So that's a great question. So interestingly, there are a couple answers to this. Interestingly, many of my clients who are interested in the financial therapy piece of what I do are already in therapy. So they believe in it. They're already like believers. It's already helped them in other domains, but their therapist just doesn't get the money aspect of it. The financial side,
the money aspect of it. Okay.
That's right.
Okay.
And so they're already working on various areas, and with a therapist, but then they're just wanting someone who can apply that approach to the subject of money. So I tend not to really stray from that subject. Like I stay in my lane, so to speak.
Yeah.
And, when they engage with me, they're very clear about, I set it up in the proposal, actually, and it's very clear. These are my qualifications. This is what I am. This is what I am not. And, if we start to venture into areas, then I'm going to collaborate with you to get, to provide a referral to a therapist. So that's already established right away. In addition to that, I do have someone on my team who is a therapist. He's licensed in Texas, so he only offers services to Alafia clients on a coaching and consulting basis, not on a therapy basis. Nonetheless, when you have that background, you have it, you don't stop. You don't that knowledge and training doesn't just go away. So so there's that as well. And so there is a pretty deep skill set available, and and there is the expectation that if we're in areas that really aren't Natasha areas or really aren't Alafia areas, then I'll just let them know, and it's totally fine. And
just to clarify, so from what it sounds like is most of the people finding you already are going through some sort of therapy. They really just need the financial side of it. Someone who gets therapy, but can also add the financials understanding of all that's going on together. Now, when you have a client come in who's already had a therapist, are there ever situations where you are allowed to, or you are even able to collaborate with your therapist, or is it always still complete silos?
Yeah, I have not collaborated with an outside therapist, and I don't think that I plan to. The information that would cause me to suggest that would be something that they should speak with their therapist about generally has nothing to do with their financial piece.
Okay.
So that would be, there wouldn't be a lot of value add from my insights on the finances, because the reason that they're being referred away is because we've now delved into areas that have really no relevance, no bearing on the financial side. Yeah.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. Natasha, this has been really helpful. Thank you very much for sharing a little bit into your world and what you do. I believe that financial therapy for mental health is something that many are ashamed to even talk about the struggles they have, whether that's anxiety, whether that's just limiting beliefs because of past hurts and being able to tackle them in a safe space with those who are being trained. Even though you're not a therapist, you have been involved in the Financial Therapy Association for a while, and there is training that you are given to be able to hop on that side. So I think what you do is really valuable, and thank you very much for what you do. Thank you for coming on the show. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Before you go, can you let our audience know if anyone wanted to reach you, what's best way to contact you, your social media handles or anything of that sort?
Yeah, so the best way of contacting me is simply to visit my website, which is alafia.ca, and just book a time with me or send me a message through my website. I am on social media, but not terribly to be honest, so I can be found, but you're going to find not a whole lot of stuff there,
So Alafia, that is ALAPHIA.ca. I will be putting her links in the show description notes. So if anybody wants to reach out to her, feel free. She is a fellow financial planner, and I always believe in collaborating with other planners because we cannot be everything to everyone. And there is a good work you do that I cannot even touch. So really appreciate that.
Thank you for that.
All righty. Thanks.
This is all the time we have for today. Thanks for listening to the True Wealth Podcast. Don't forget to rate, share, and subscribe to the True Wealth Podcast on your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook at True Wealth Pod. We'd love to hear from you. Share your thoughts, ideas, and questions with us on our social media platforms or email us at podcast@truewealthadvisors.ca. And who knows, your question might be the subject of a future episode.